Yo, what's good guys? Welcome back to another review done right and just for you. This time we're taking a look at the almighty Shenron.
Eternal Shenron! By your name I summon you forth! I gotta make this fast, Shenron. It's more for Lord Beerus. He said he'll blow up the Earth unless he meets a Super Saiyan God, right?
What? Did you say Lord Beerus?
Hey.
Now if you're looking to pick this guy up, his current price tag sits somewhere around $100 USD, but if you peek the link to Amazon in the description below, he's on sale for about 89 bones right now. Now I think it goes without saying that just by the look of it, Shenron is easily the largest, lengthiest figure in the line to date. And while I know he probably isn't anywhere near the scale he actually should be in compared to the rest of the figures in the line, let's be real, if he was, he'd probably be like 300 bucks. And just to get an idea of his massiveness, just take a look at the size of his box in comparison to the rest of them down there. Now, the next little point I'd like to address here is, he's not exactly the prototype that we saw years ago, but he does represent his anime counterpart from Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super quite well. And just to give you guys a little bit more of an idea of how massive he is, here he is next to two SH Monster Arts figures, Godzilla 2000 and King Kong. Holy crap, can't even fit them all in the shot. Alright, so let's kick things off with the head here, and there's no doubt about it. This looks like Shenron right down to the catfish-esque whiskers. Now, is it just me, or do the tufts of hair as well as the open mouth kind of make Shenron resemble a happy golden retriever? Alright, but back to these whiskers. I'm very paranoid about these things breaking. Let me just go ahead and take them out here, give Shenron a little shave. See how thin these things are? I mean, wow. Like, word to the wise, just be careful how you handle these things, or you might have a Trunks peg situation reoccurring on your hands, if you know what I'm talking about. Now, in terms of the rest of the likeness on his head, they did a fantastic job here. Crocodilian-like snout, check. Red eyes, check. Reindeer-like horns, check. And furry things on the side of his head, check. Now, I think the only real improvement that could be made with regard to his head is maybe just some black line work to fill in the little grooves along the antlers here, or horns if you want to call them that. Other than that, fantastic job on the head. Moving on to the neck and essentially the rest of the figure, I think they picked the perfect green, or at least a very close green for Shenron. I mean, you could argue that he's a slightly lighter green in the anime, but hey, that could be said about many other figures in the line as well, like Cell, who didn't turn out to be the exact color even after 2 releases. I also love the spines running down the center of his body, which are a darker shade of green than the rest of the body and really helps to give the figure some more character and pleasantness aesthetically. Now, they chose a sort of a creamy yellowish color, but this is very accurate to the source material. I'm loving the way they sculpted the lines into the belly, and I feel like a bit more line work would have put this portion of the figure over the edge, but I understand not wanting to put too much of the budget and focus on this part. And again, dividing the belly and the back/body with this prominent dark red line looks excellent, giving our majestic friend a very nice pop to him. Now, I'm not saying the paint apps are perfect on this figure, but for what it is, it's very good. Now, just a bit of a fun fact here, Shenron's hands are actually more accurate to Manga Piccolo's hands than the Manga Piccolo figure itself. Now, I wanted to bring something to your attention here with regard to this segment, and I got this point from Anthony Custom's review. I'm not going to pretend that I can notice it myself, I gotta give credit where credit is due. But some of these segments here are actually automatically curved, so even if you do manage to straighten Shenron out, you're likely not going to be able to pose him exactly how you want him due to the curved nature of some of these segments. But you know what, all in all, in terms of the figure's likeness to what is arguably one of the franchise's flagship characters, I give this figure a 9.5 out of 10. Again, just like Battle Damaged Gohan, for what some black lining or shading could have accented on the figure, would have gave this figure a 10 out of 10. Okay, so there's been a lot of controversy surrounding this figure in the articulation department. I mean, yes, the figure has joints at each segment, as well as a plethora of segments on his neck, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's a whole ton of range of motion you can get out with these segments. Now, before I continue with these statements about the controversy, let me just say that with Shenron, the articulation from the head to the neck segment is on point. Of course, he has the ability to move his mouth up and down, open and close it. In addition, his head can move up and down and kind of in a circular motion. Now, with regard to his neck, this is probably where you're going to have the most capability to influence the figure's posability with your creativity. As you can see, there's many segments going along here to make up his neck, and most, if not all of them, are articulated. And I mean, if they did have to choose one single part of the body to focus on with regard to, pouring the budget into the articulation, I agree that the head and neck were definitely the way to go. Now, aside from this, his hands are articulated in the same fashion you'd see with any other Dragon Ball Z Figuarts figure, which is a nice touch. You've got double jointed elbows, the wrist can swivel and bend somewhat, and you've also got a huge ball joint connecting the shoulder of that arm/hand to the main body. And I might hate myself for this, but here he is off of the stand, all splayed out, looking very Loch Ness Monster-like, and he is a pretty long figure. I believe he's somewhere around 2 feet. Alright, so getting back to the negatives and the controversy surrounding this figure here. So we know that SH Figuarts is a brand all about, posability and customization in terms of how you want your figures to be displayed, right? And with that comes a hefty amount of, articulation, as well as a hefty price tag. Now, with that hefty price tag also comes a hefty amount of expectations, as there should be. You pay a lot of money for something, you should get your money's worth. Now, unfortunately, Shenron doesn't exactly meet those expectations, and as I mentioned, these segments aren't perfectly straight and they're just curved automatically. So you can see that it'll be really hard for you to really do whatever you want with him, and it does suck that it's kind of predetermined how you're going to be able to have him, because any pose that doesn't really fit how the stand would allow him to fit, chances are you're not going to be able to support him unless you find some other way to, hold him up in the pose you want him in. Now, I usually don't like breaking the fourth wall too much in these reviews and, letting the lighting be shown, but I just wanted to show you, it's not possible to have Shenron completely straight and standing upright if you ever decide to have him do so. Now, having said that though, I think this is a case where understanding is needed, as really, with a figure this large with no legs large enough to support him, a sacrifice is necessary somewhere, and it just so happens it was made with body articulation. Now, is this figure still worth picking up? Definitely. For what it is, it's been made very well. Now, is there a better statue you could pick up for a better price? Maybe. It all depends on what your preferences for the statue of Shenron are. If you want something massive, then you're probably going to pay a bit more for it. In addition, one added bonus of actually picking up the Figuarts version is a feature seen in the base, which we'll discuss now. Alright, so you may have noticed that Shenron doesn't exactly come with a lot of accessories. And really, why would he? He only gets like an average screen time of 5 minutes, if that. And all he does is float around, talk for a bit, and grant a whip. But he does come with this incredibly massive stand as well as a base. Now, the stand is really cool in and of itself, as it not only features 3 gigantic poles, but the 2 sidearms here actually have sliding holsters. And you can adjust that to how much you want them to go in and out. Just a word to the wise though, again, it's really hard to find a balance of these things to actually get Shenron to stay without the pieces yanking each other out of their socket. And I've also heard horror stories of these sliders breaking off, so be very gentle and careful with them. Now, when you first put this stand together and you're trying to get Shenron up on it, it's a little tricky to line it up just right so that you can match how the figure is actually posed in the box. Or maybe I'm just an idiot. Anyways, moving on to the base now, you can see it's actually quite a nice vibrant shade of yellow, and it does have some shading going into the center here with 7 little slots. Now, what could that be for, you ask? Well, of course, these golden orbs we all call Dragon Balls. Now, initially, a lot of us were like, well, why are they all gold? Is it because they're activated or something? Is it because Tamashii being cheap? Nope, it's because Tamashii wants you to hunt down all 7 Dragon Balls. We got the 4-star ball with Kid Goku, and we're probably gonna see the other 6 come with Bulma, Roshi, and probably even Kid Krillin at some point. It's actually making me kind of want to go pick up Kid Goku just for that Dragon Ball. Alright guys, so Shenron, a pretty big figure with a pretty big price tag. While he isn't the best in terms of articulation, he does sport an excellent sculpt, and you know what, I'm happy I picked him up. And I actually paid slightly more for him when he first came out, but like I mentioned, he's on sale now on Amazon. So if you were leaning towards getting this guy at some point, what are you waiting for? Grab him by the Dragon Balls. Do you already have Shenron? Will you be getting him? Would you have rather gotten an Omega Shenron instead? Let me know in the comments below, and you know what I always say, guys. May the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows. Peace.